Yo, what's going on, guys? This is Houston Sports Talk back into the video today. And today, the Dallas Cowboys are trading for George Pickens, wide receiver from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Rivals, and the Steelers and Cowboys making a move. I mean, they're not division rivals, but they are rivals. But George Pickens is headed to the Dallas Cowboys. That is interesting. So he is headed with a 2026 sixth-round pick in exchange for a third-round pick in 2026 and a 2027 fifth-rounder. So a third and a fifth to Pittsburgh and Pickens and a sixth in 2026 to Dallas. I got to say, before I say this as well, keep in mind, I'm going to say this before I say the main point. I hate the Cowboys. I have hated the Cowboys since, I believe since I started watching football. I have a uncle who is a Cowboys fan, and I've made it my pride and joy to mess with him almost every week when it comes to Dallas Cowboys. But as much as I dislike them, I'm going to credit them with this trade. I think this is a good trade. I don't know about what they're giving up in this deal to land George Pickens. I don't know if I would say that is the good part of the deal, but just adding in George Pickens, it might have been a little bit of a overpriced, a third and a fifth. At least you're getting a sixth back. So I don't know about the compensation they gave up in this deal to get him, but the fact to add in a one, I wouldn't say a second wide receiver. I would say more of a 1B to CeeDee Lamb. In George Pickens. So I love this for CeeDee Lamb mainly because even though I dislike the Cowboys, I really like CeeDee Lamb, and he's such a talented wide receiver, and the workload last year was higher for CeeDee Lamb with this Cowboys wide receiver group not being as good, the running game not being as good, with Tony Pollard being gone last year. And I as a Texans fan, I hate to say this with Brandon Cooks because I really love Brandon Cooks as well. Brandon Cooks not being what he used to be his first year in Dallas, or what he was in Houston and New Orleans when he was playing really good football, with Brandon Cooks not being as good. Also, having some injuries here and there. And you saw Jake Ferguson get a little banged up. I really like Ferguson as well, and so he had a little bit of an injury that kept him out a little bit. So, he missed like three games, but. So with CeeDee Lamb's workload being higher, with the wide receiver group not being as talented last year as it was the year before, and not only that, but the run game being a lot less productive, CeeDee Lamb's workload was a lot higher. And I don't think the run game is going to change at all this year. I think the run game is still going to be really bad. It might be worse, honestly, because they lost Rico Dowdle. I really thought Rico Dowdle was something really special. He was showing some really good things at the end of the season, and the Cowboys are stupid not to re-sign him. Yeah, you added in Javonte Williams. I really like Jaden Blue as a Longhorns fan. So this running back room, it's not as terrible as people think, but it's not. I think the Cowboys running back room is more talented in the receiving end than it is the run game, to be honest. And I'm saying that as someone who's watched a lot of Jaden Blue at Texas. Jaden Blue is going to be like an extra wide receiver for Dak Prescott out there. But same thing with Javonte Williams. He's not that great of a runner. He's more of I would say he's probably as good as a pass running back than he is a running back. But so he's another guy that's going to really help in the run game. Now Miles Sanders is another guy they brought in. I think he might be able to help out a little bit more in the run side of things than Jaden Blue and Javonte Williams. But this run game is still really bad. Let's not act like it is. But so for them to add in George Pickens to CeeDee Lamb, that will put some relief on CeeDee Lamb. I really do believe. George Pickens last year, he had 900 receiving yards for this Pittsburgh Steelers team, 3 receiving touchdowns, only in 14 games. He missed 3 games, still had 900 receiving yards. In their one playoff game, he had 87 receiving yards and a touchdown. He had 1,140 receiving yards and 5 receiving touchdowns in 2023. Another thing I would say with Pickens in this deal, with him coming to Dallas, is something Pickens will get to do for the first time in his career. He's really been the number one guy his whole career in Pittsburgh. in his 3 years with the Steelers, and that's something he's not going to be anymore. I don't know if that will be an adjustment for Pickens. I don't know how he'll take that. If he thinks he's the number one guy, he won't last long in Dallas with playing next to CeeDee Lamb. But I don't think he'd be a dummy if he goes into Dallas thinking he's the number one guy playing next to CeeDee Lamb. But I don't think he thinks that though. So with him being the number 2 guy, but like I said, I think it's more 1B than I think George Pickens is probably going to be more of like a 1B to 1A of CeeDee Lamb than him being the number 2 guy to number 1. But so with Pickens coming in, he's not gonna be facing the most talented DB on the opposing team anymore like he would with the Pittsburgh Steelers, because that's gonna be who's gonna be facing those type of guys. That's gonna be CeeDee Lamb. And look, as much as I think Dak Prescott is, I love to hate on Dak Prescott. But, George Pickens, and maybe you can give an exception to Russell Wilson, has not played with anyone as talented as Dak Prescott at the quarterback position. And that's not a compliment to Dak. That's just a shot to the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback game. 2022, 2023 was the awful Kenny Pickett, who... Now like with Kenny Pickett, you don't even know if he's going to be the QB3 in Cleveland. So Kenny Pickett is a guy that threw the ball to him. Mason Rudolph, he's solid, but Mason Rudolph, that's all I have to say. And then this year, I think the quarterback play for George Pickens was a little bit better. Justin Fields, I really like, but as much as I really dislike Dak Prescott. But Dak Prescott is much better than Justin Fields. And Russell Wilson, prime Russell Wilson clears Dak Prescott. But Russell Wilson at this age, Dak Prescott is better than that. So Dak, even though he's not as good, he's not a Super Bowl quarterback. He's not a guy that can't even get to the championship game. He can't even get to the NFC championship game. But at the same time, he is much better than anyone who has ever thrown the football to George Pickens. And look at what he's done in his last 2 seasons in 2023, Kenny Pickett and Rudolph throwing him the football, 2024, Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, and he put up a total of a little bit over 2,000 receiving yards in those 2 seasons. And now he's going to be with Dak Prescott. And not only is his quarterback better, but he's not going to be facing as talented, defensive backs or cornerbacks as he has had in the past playing next to CeeDee Lamb. So I really believe this is a great trade for the Cowboys. I think George Pickens will have a great season for the Dallas Cowboys. And to me, again, as a Cowboys hater, this, I think, pushes them from being outside the wild card to in the wild card. I believe they're playing in a tough as hell division for that to happen. But I believe the Dallas Cowboys, I think the NFC East, we called it NFC Least a couple years ago. I think this division next year can have 3 teams in their division in the playoffs. I don't know who wins it. The Eagles are great. I think they're probably the favorite. Commanders and Cowboys can as well, I believe, can win it. The reason I feel like the Commanders and Cowboys can have a shot of winning the division is because I think it's been like 10 years since or longer since a team has won this division twice in a row. So that makes me think that the Eagles might not win it this year, but I think they'll still be in the playoffs. They should win the division though, in that streak. But I see this trade for the Dallas Cowboys. If Dak Prescott can stay healthy, I think the defense a little bit improved. The run game will hurt them, and that's why I don't think they'll win the division. But I think they can be the 7 or 6 seed in the playoffs in the NFC, which I think they were probably, before this trade, I would have told you they were out of the wild card. So, but yeah, the solid trade for the Dallas Cowboys. But Pickens has to come in and play well, and Prescott has to stay healthy and play well as well. So let me know your thoughts on the trade for the Dallas Cowboys in the comment section, and peace out.